I am so excited for this fight.
Oh, man, what a right hand. Oh, beautiful left, that's it. Jump guard guillotine.
That is some great jiu-jitsu.
This is tight, Sean. There's the tap. Oh, good shot by Chaloni. Big shots from Alexander Volkov.
Man, devastating performance by Rich Hale. Ready to finish this fight right now.
And that's it.
Bellator delivered in every fight.
This is Bellator's Road to the Championships.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean Wheelock. Welcome to Bellator's Road to the Championships, our review preview show for season number 7. Thus far in the season, through the quarterfinals and the semifinals, we've had some truly spectacular fights, some really amazing finishes. Now over the next half hour, we'll get you caught up on everything that has happened season to date, and we will also look ahead to our 4 weight class tournament finals. I'm joined as always by my Bellator broadcast partner, Jimmy Smith. Also with me, Bellator Spanish language color commentator Manny Rodriguez, and making his Bellator debut from Spike's MMA Uncensored Live, MMA insider Luke Thomas. Luke, welcome to Bellator, and thank you very much for letting us crash your MMA Uncensored Live set here in Times Square. Very cool, man.
Very happy to have all 3 of you.
So, guys, 4 weight class tournaments, of course, in season number 7. Featherweights, lightweights, welterweights, and Jimmy, let's start in the heavyweight division. Richard Hale versus Alexander Volkov. Bellator's season 7 heavyweight tournament final, not just for the tournament championship, not just for $100,000, but also now for the Bellator World Heavyweight Championship, moving from 3 to 5 rounds.
That's right. Cole Conrad retired, vacated the belt. This fight will be for the championship. I don't think it adds any extra motivation. These guys are motivated and focused anyway. It is now a 5-round fight. Who's ready for the long haul? That's the question.
Manny, let's look at these 2 fighters, the 2 lightest of the 8 entrants. Are you surprised that these are the 2 remaining?
No, I don't think so. I think they're both pretty consistent. I like the fact that Rich Hale's always come out aggressive, always looking to use his boxing, comes out. You saw the Wessel fight, typical Rich Hale, looking to connect. Same thing in the Thiago fight, except, he had to overcome some difficulties, but he showed he still's got that power at heavyweight that made him good at light heavyweight.
And I really like Volkov, too. I mean, I don't know if I pick him to win the whole thing. We'll get to that later, I'm sure. But Volkov is interesting, right? He is a guy who really commands distance. Now, he's 6'7", you would expect him to, but he does. A lot of heavyweights in MMA, they don't fight tall. Volkov fights tall.
He fights tall, like you said, throws straight punches, always at length, always keeps his opponent at the end of his punches and kicks. That's what's gotten him here so far.
Yeah, but he hasn't looked super comfortable also, like, in close, and that's something that I think Rich Hale can really use to his advantage.
Luke, when you look at Richard Hale, this is a former light heavyweight tournament finalist. 6'4", walks at about 235. He says that he's rejuvenated because he doesn't have to make that steep weight cut.
And I think you see that, too. I mean, listen, you can say maybe in the Santos fight he got caught off guard. But when Hale fights, he fights at a pretty tremendous pace and speed. Like at the Wessel fight, he was connecting with shots one after the other. Wessel wasn't even able to rebound as quick as he wanted to. And on the ground, he transitions position quickly. He moves quickly. He's a real light heavyweight in a heavyweight frame. I think that's going to play to his advantage. I don't think that's going to make a difference ultimately who wins or loses, but that's a clear advantage Hale takes into this fight.
Guys, a lot of big questions surrounding this fight. What stands out for you, Jimmy?
Well, you're only as good as your last fight. In the semifinals, both guys, big question marks. Rich Hale beat Big Monster Santos basically because Santos gave up and stopped fighting. He got rocked. Rich Hale showed he could take a heavyweight punch, which is important, but he didn't come back and really take the fight away from Santos. Santos gave up when he lost his teeth. Volkov in the semifinal round, generous stand-ups, to say the least. I know you're really upset about that, Manny. Changed the whole conversation in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, and I also think that he was easily taken down by a dazed Vinicius Spartan multiple times, and I think that that's also going to be one of those things that he's got to fix if he's going to fight guys like Rich Hale.
And that's a guy who's not known for his wrestling, and Rich Hale can take you down.
Rich Hale can take you down. Listen, you go back to the Volkov-Rogers fight. Rogers, not a wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. He wasn't able to do much, but he was able to get double underhooks when he wanted to, and that, to me, signals problems, because if Brett Rogers can do it, you bet Hale can do it, and when Hale can do it, you're going to go for a ride.
With a broken arm, he got double underhooks.
Guys, let's make the picks. Now, keep in mind that 50% of the fighters will hate you after this, as Jimmy well knows.
I get it every year. I'm going to piss off the American and go with Volkov based on his consistency. He's fought at range, kickboxing range. He throws hands and feet in combination very well, and he's done it throughout the tournament. I'm going with the consistency of Volkov in what I think will be a stand-up fight. I think Rich Hale's more versatile, he's better on the ground, but he's gonna want to stand and bang. This can be decided on the feet.
Manny?
I think you got to give it to Rich Hale. I think that Volkov was exposed in his last fight. I think the ground game is going to be the big difference. Once you add the elbows, because now it's the final, I think it's going to be a clear-cut win for Rich.
I have to go Hale. I mean, listen, Hale did get rocked in that Santos fight, but he hasn't been in these long, dragged-out wars. The fights were all pretty quick, and he's the kind of guy on the ground, like Manny said, listen, when Hale takes you down, he's going to go to advanced position. He takes your back, and for heavyweight, we'll put both hooks in. I really think this fight's going to go to the ground, and it's going to end on the ground with Hale as the winner.
Notice, guys, I won't be making a pick.
Yeah, great. So I'm double teamed. Okay, that's fine. Great. I thought you could balance it out for me. That's fine, coward.
We are just getting started here on Bellator's Road to the Championships. Still to come, we'll talk about the 55s, we'll talk about the 70s. When we return, we will turn our attention to the 145-pound tournament. We're coming right back. Bellator's 145-pound division absolutely stacked. Manny, we've seen that depth of talent in this Season 7 145-pound tournament. In the finals, Shabalot Shamhalayev versus Rad Martinez. Shamhalayev in the semifinal round, just the superior striker.
Yeah, I think Shambalayev's got it all. He's shown it. Kid's got power. He's well-versed on the ground, standing up. But Rad Martinez, always aggressive, always coming forward. The guy's a real grinder.
Well, the thing is, Shamalayev has been really smart. If you saw against Mike Richmond, timing the right hand against the southpaw, you can tell that was his game plan from the beginning. He timed it perfectly against a guy, I think, who had better natural speed, but he was the smarter fighter that night.
Yeah, I'm not sure he has it all. He might have it all. We're going to find out in this fight. And I think the issue here is still gas tank. He hasn't previously looked that great when the fights go long. You know Rad Martinez, more than anything, is going to push that fight late. Shamalayev is great early. Let's see if he's great late.
Manny, you just said it. He's a grinder, but he's a grinder, Jimmy, in the best sense of the term.
Yeah, he is. But look at the competition he's faced so far. Nazareno Malagari, tough guy, jiu-jitsu black belt, went 15 minutes. Wagner Fabiano, once again, great jiu-jitsu guy. Neither guy could put him down with one shot. You call him a grinder, you call him a workhorse, comes in with his hands down and brawls a lot. Because he's fought guys who couldn't put him down with one shot. He's taken on a very different fighter in Shamalayev.
Yeah, Shamalayev can hurt him quick. I think the big difference, too, is going to be the elbows. The finals, you know, that plays a huge factor. I think Rad is going to be more willing to go to the ground this fight, and I think Shamalayev is going to have to stay real mobile.
The complexion of the fight, to me, is going to be super interesting because the way in which Rad Martinez fought the first two quarterfinals and semifinal fights were all standing. He can't really do that against Shamalayev. He has to make a completely new kind of fight. I'm sure he can, but that's a big change for him.
Rad Martinez, an NCAA Division I college wrestling All-American. His takedown against the takedown defense of Shamhalayev, Jimmy.
Well, we don't know how good Shamalayev's takedown defense is. He's fought guys who were content to strike with him. The question is, can he win this fight off his back? No way. Rad Martinez has fought 2 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, hasn't even come close to being submitted. He's definitely not going to get this done on the ground. He has to stay on his feet.
Manny, so what's the big question for you in this final?
The big question for me is, can he catch him coming in? Can he be that counterpuncher that he's been able to be in those first 2 rounds of the tournament? If he can, he's going to be able to counter the wrestling, get up a lot easier.
Luke, you get to lead it off. Who's your pick?
It's a tough call. It's a reluctant call. I think Shamhalayev can steal around, maybe 2, but ultimately at the end, I see either by decision, Rad Martinez, or maybe he might even stop him in the 3rd.
Manny?
I think Shambalayev's going to be able to finish him. I think he's got the power. I think he's got the timing. I think it's going to be his night.
I am going with history on this one. We've seen this over and over in Bellator. Guys with great finishing power, they have great 2 rounds and take on a grinding, tough wrestler, and they lose. That would happen to Patricky Pitbull. We saw it happen to Dan Hornbuckle. It's happened over and over again. I think it happens again with Rad Martinez.
4 weight class tournaments in season number 7. We've talked about 2. Still to come, we'll discuss the 70s. And when we return, it's the 155-pound tournament final. Dave Jansen versus Marcin Held. Stay with us, everyone. We are coming right back to New York. This is Bellator's Road to the Championship, season number 7. We've moved to a much more comfortable area. Jimmy, you look so laid back on the couch.
I'm so laid back. This is great. Unfortunately, Manny's here. He takes up so much of the couch.
Jimmy Smith, Manny Rodriguez.
There's still room.
Luke Thomas is with me. Let's now turn our attention to the 155-pound weight class final. Dave Jansen versus Marcin Held. Held just 20 years old, and it's interesting. Jimmy and I were talking about it in a semifinal win, Luke. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but his leg locks are all Sambo.
And the leg lock game is really kind of a special game. You can get Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts who are great at positions and submissions and the whole 9, but the leg lock game, they may not have any of that. So it's a real ace in the hole to have. And, listen, Dave Jansen is an interesting guy, too. Great boxing since he's gone to Sports Lab. Good wrestler. Never been submitted, though. Never lost by submission. Only lost to guys who could out-wrestle him. This is a great clash of styles.
Jimmy, you and I have known Dave Jansen a long time. He's a very introspective fighter. He's so big on the mental preparation as well as the physical preparation.
Yeah, and he's going to be ready. I mean, the one thing is that leg lock game, it's kind of a one-trick pony. You get it or you don't. And Dave Jansen has all this time to prepare for just leg locks. You know he's going over that in camp. You know he's going over not getting taken down. He doesn't have the full array, I would say, that a jiu-jitsu world champion would have.
I mean, obviously, Rich Clemente thought the same thing, but look at him. I mean, the reality is he's so unorthodox. It's so hard to prepare for someone that's willing to put themselves in, really bad positions just to attack a leg. It's going to be really difficult for Dave.
Also, it's one thing to say he's got a leg lock game. A lot of guys who have leg lock games have one leg lock. They've got a heel hook. He's got heel hooks. He's got knee bars. As we saw at the Rich Clemente fight, he's also got toe holds. That's a triple threat that really needs to be acknowledged.
Dave Jansen, again, is a grinder. We talked about Red Martinez. The same thing applies to Dave Jansen, a grinder in the best sense of the term, Manny.
He's a grinder with finishing ability. That guy has, guillotines, rear naked chokes. He grinds people just to get him tired enough to look for the finish. But when he does look for the finish, it does, put him in some bad spots.
Jimmy, Marcin Held, 20 years old. Is he ready at age 20 to make that step up, win this tournament?
It's not the years, it's the mileage. He's an experienced fighter. He's been around the block against great fighters. It's not a matter of him being 20. It's a matter of the number of fights he's had. It's the kind of fights he's had. Bellator veteran. He's been here before. Obviously fought his way to the finals this time. I think he's mentally definitely ready to go.
Luke, is there a big question for you entering this fight?
I'm a little bit worried about the takedowns. I'm a little worried that, listen, if you go back to the first fight he had, the quarterfinals against Machaev, he couldn't really get him down. And that, to me, is problematic because Dave Jansen has great takedown defense. But ultimately, I think he finds a way to create a scramble, dive for a leg, whatever he has to do, and ultimately that will pay dividends.
Manny, what about for you? Big question.
I think the big question is going to be whether Dave Jansen wants to stay on the outside like he can, or if he's going to want to engage, look for knockouts, look for positions that are going to leave him open to get attacked by the leg.
Jimmy?
Yeah, same thing, is that the aggression of Dave Jansen, he's kind of a wild man when it comes to his strikes. Throws a lot of overhand rights, pushes forward on guys a lot. We saw him walking forward against Ricardo Cerrone. Will he want to do that against a leg lock specialist who's going to flip and roll and go for everything funky? That's the question. Will he change his style in this fight?
So, Manny, who wins this fight?
I think Dave Jansen's aggressive nature is going to give Marcin the chance he needs at one point during the 15 minutes to lock him up and submit him.
Jimmy?
I don't think Marcin Held wins this fight without being able to take Dave Jansen down, and I don't see that happening. We saw against Rich Clemente. Rich Clemente took Marcin Held down, was willing to engage him in kind of that submission game, and got caught. Dave Jansen's not going to do that. He's going to keep it on the feet. He wins.
So wait a minute. You two are disagreeing.
Well, he's wrong all the time. If he weren't being so wrong, I wouldn't disagree with him all the time.
Let's see what Luke thinks.
Luke?
Listen, I agree that I'm not sure Held can take Jansen to the ground, but I am sure he can stick to him. And if he can stick to him, because of his offensive nature that Jansen has, Held can take advantage of it. I like Held by submission.
Stab me in the back, man. Whatever, it's cool.
Great minds think alike.
When we return, we will talk about the Bellator Season 7 170-pound tournament final, and we are coming right back to Times Square.
Welcome back to Bellator's Road to the Championships.
In 2009, Lyman Good became Bellator's first ever welterweight world champion. Good is now one fight away from having another shot at that title. He will face Andrei Koreshkov, 12-0. This is a spectacular final in the welterweight division.
That's right, Koreshkov undefeated, dynamic. He wants to go from prospect to elite welterweight. That's a step every prospect has to make, and he's primed to do it right now against Lyman Good.
Everyone's got to lose sometime. Lyman Good is motivated. He wants his belt back. He wants the rematch against Ben Askren, and he's had the taste of triumph. He wants it. I think now's his time.
Mandy, you just said his belt, and Luke, that's what Lyman Good said to us entering this tournament. He said, I want to get my belt back. He didn't say the belt, he said my belt. That's how he views this.
And he should. Anybody who takes being a champion seriously should always think that when they lose it, it's theirs to get back. They can always get back to that road. It's a tough road to do, and he's done it. I think Lyman Good's an interesting guy for Koreshkov to fight, particularly because Lyman Good is strong on the inside. He's a physical, bruising guy. He's not the best takedown artist, but Koreshkov's not the best takedown defender. So this, to me, is a really deep clash of styles.
Manny, a tough draw in the quarterfinal round for Lyman Good. He starts against Jim Wallhead.
Yeah, and he's been consistent and really dominant in this tournament. That fight against Judo Jim Wallhead, he was really good in close, kept the fight really dirty, using his dirty boxing, like keeping him tied up, made it a real difficult night for Judo Jim. Comes back, launches really fast against Sarev, controlling the fight on the ground, especially that first round. He was completely dominant. I think it tired him out a little bit, and that's why Sarev came back a little bit in the second round, but hey, we pulled it out.
Koreshkov in the quarterfinals against Jordan Smith, the first time that Koreshkov had been extended 15 minutes.
And I think that's an important statement to make. He showed he can go 15 minutes. He was landing some great shots. With Jordan Smith, awkward style, opposite stance, and I think that gave Koreshkov some problems. Ran into some trouble, got his back taken on the ground, but stayed with the program. Got 15 minutes out of him, and he righted the ship in that third round. That's important for a young, undefeated fighter. And against Marius Zaromskis, what can you say? Great performance against an outstanding striker, great kickboxer, knocked him out in the first round. I think it was a defining performance for him.
I guess so, but the thing about Zaromskis, this is a guy who throws rolling axe kicks in fights. He is a high-risk, high-reward kind of fighter. I expect Koreshkov to look good against somebody like that. Lyman Good is totally the opposite. Very meat and potatoes kind of game. And unlike the Jordan Smith fight, where there was a lot of positional change, I expect Lyman Good to try to mentally break him, stay on top, control him, not give him an inch to breathe. That is not the kind of guy I think Koreshkov's ever faced.
This is the third Bellator tournament for Lyman Good. Now he's back through to the final. Let's just talk about his path and how you've seen him progress in this tournament.
Mentally focused. We talked about it before, getting his belt back. You know, it's one of those guys, he's been here before. He has a mental edge of having been through the tournament. I think he's looked better in this tournament than he ever has in Bellator. He's so good at controlling his range. Against Koreshkov, he's a guy who likes to be at the end of his punches. If you're far away from Koreshkov, you're in big trouble. Lyman Good showed against Judo Jim Wallhead. He can change it up, making an in-tight striking game. He's been very smart in this tournament.
Manny, what's the big question in this fight?
I think it's how Koreshkov comes out, because first round he didn't look super dominating against Jordan Smith, but that last fight against Zaromskis, he had some space, aggressive, put combinations together. He could be deadly.
Luke, what has to be answered? What is that question?
The question is, where does Lyman Good want to fight? Does he want to fight on the ground on top, or does he want to fight in close? Against Judo Jim Wallhead, who's a very different fighter than Koreshkov, but it should be noted, he had some real success with his dirty boxing. Does he want to fight there, or does he want to take the fight to the ground and put Koreshkov in a place that he knows he's not the most dangerous?
Koreshkov is 12-0. Jimmy, I don't know this. I'm just guessing. I think you're taking Lyman Good.
I'm taking Koreshkov.
You are.
I'm stepping away from Lewison because of the last fight in the semifinal round. I thought Lyman Good looked a little off in his striking against Michal Tsarev. Was a little confused by the Russian, and he's not a great striker. And Koreshkov, of course, looked deadly in that fight, knocking out Zaromskis in the first round. If this fight is at range, which I think it's going to be at some point, he's got a money shot, and I think he might be putting Lyman Good to sleep.
Luke, you agree?
I don't agree. It's flash versus substance, and substance 9 times out of 10 wins. I like Lyman Good.
Manny?
Great minds think alike, I'm telling you. I think Luke's right. I think this is Lyman's time. I think he can impose his will, use his size. I think he can take it down, and I think he can pound him out.
So will Lyman Good advance to face Ben Askren in a rematch for the world title, or will Andrei Koreshkov advance his record to a perfect 13-0? Find out live next Friday night beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Bellator 82. That concludes this edition of Bellator's Road to the Championships. Good stuff, everyone. For Jimmy, Manny, Luke, our entire crew, I'm Sean Wheelock. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next Friday night.